So this past spring I got a 3D printer, and there's a lot of things you need to know about 3D printing. So in this video I'm going to be going through frequently asked questions about the 3D printer, the basics of how to use it, and how much fun it can be to own one. First, I want to start with the basics. So basically, there's a website called Thingyverse, and you're going to want to click on it. And basically, this is a website where you can download 3D models of anything you want, from like door stops to towel hangers to basically anything you want. Once you come across a design that you like, you're going to want to go down to Thing Files and click It Is Wednesday STL, or whatever it's called for you, and click this download button. For most people, you're going to want to download specifically the STL file, not this file, this one. It's very important for the next step. But before you start to put it anywhere, you're going to want to download a slicer. A slicer is an application that you use to download and view 3D files. One of the most popular and free to use slicers is called Ultimaker Cura, so you're going to want to download it for free, trusted by millions of users. The slicer looks something like this, and here you can resize your object, you can move it around, rotate it a bit, or you can move it around on your base. Most of the time, files you download won't be rotated properly, so you're going to want to click this rotate button right here and rotate it until it's flat on the board. So once you've got everything ready on your board, you're going to want to click this blue slice button down here. What that does is it tells you how long the design will take and how many grams of filament it will use. Speaking of filament, this is filament. It's a plastic material that you string through your 3D printer so that it'll be able to print whatever you want. As you can see, you got the color, the weight, 1 kilogram, the average print temperature, and everything else. So if you look in your slicer, you're going to want to pay attention to the number of weight that your filament has. That big spool of filament had about 1 kilogram of PLA material, or plastic. And if you look down here, you have 11 grams. So that's how much out of your big spool that it's going to use to print this. Slicers also have a feature called Preview, and if you go in there, you can see just exactly how they make it. Using this slider, you can click and go down and see exactly how the 3D printer will print your object. You're probably asking yourself, but what if I want to print something that's the length of the entire base? You can do that, but I'll show you what'll happen. Just scale it up a bit. And there you have it, the gigantic model of the frog. Slicing it. As you can see, it's going to take around 30 hours to do. And 342 grams of plastic. But you probably have another question. Why does it take so long, and why does it take so much plastic? And the answer's simple. It would just take very, very long to go through each individual layer. If you take a look at this slider, you can see exactly how the printer will go ahead and do your layer. And see, it's just a little tiny bit per layer, and there's approximately 325 layers. Anyway, we got that out of the way. Now it's time to move on to the next step. Most 3D printers already come with these, but it's basically a little USB drive that has an SD card slot so that you can put it in your 3D printer. Right now, it says save to disk, which you don't want, so you're gonna plug in your little drive, and after that, it'll give you the option to save it to the removable drive. So you can go ahead and click that, and then you can take your thumb drive out. Now we can finally head over to the 3D printer. Before we continue, here are the tools that came with my 3D printer. This is to cut plastic off, and this is to scrape the board or just to take the design off. So this is the first and hardest step of owning a 3D printer: turning on the machine. Very difficult. So the printer I have is called the Creality Ender 3 Pro. Before you do anything related to printing, you're going to want to level your board. So what you do is go into your options, prepare, and auto home. And what this does is it makes everything restore to its default settings. After you're done with that, it's important to make sure that your tip is level with the board. So the best thing to do is go into prepare and disable steppers, which is a thing that stops the board from moving. So the whole point of this is to make sure that the thing isn't grinding on the board, and if it is, you can move these little cog wheels looking thingies and twist it until it is completely good. As you can see, it's now lifting off the board. So after leveling your bed and all of that, you're going to want to make sure everything's good. And then you're going to want to go here, prepare, and preheat PLA. There's another option here that says preheat ABS, but you're going to want to do PLA because that preheats this and the bed. Now if you own a 3D printer, this is probably the hardest step when you're a beginner to 3D printing. Putting the filament through the small, tiny hole in order for you to print stuff. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is where you put your filament when you want to print things, and what you have to do is store it through here so that this can go all the way to here, the extruder, so it can print stuff. And they were so generous as to make the hole the same exact size as the filament, so it's impossible to put it through. Anyway, you're good to go when your extruder is 201 degrees and your bed is 60 degrees. So then you take your little SD card, put it upside down and into this hole. Once you're finally ready to print, I'm going to go from here, print from TF, and then you're going to find your design. So this is the design I want. I'm going to click on it, and then it's going to do stuff, and then it'll start printing. So if you're 3D printing something and it starts to come out all weird and shaky, and that's when you know it's failed. You gotta put that in the trash. Most often that's caused by there not being enough glue on the board, or the board is too high. If it fails, just auto home it. Then what you're gonna want to do is go to prepare and set home off this. So you're just gonna want to put a fine, even layer of glue onto your board. Make sure that the design sticks to the board. Now you're gonna try again. So as you can see, it's pretty good here. This excess is from it randomly spewing out plastic when you're not printing anything. And here's a time lapse. And there you have it. That's what about 8 minutes will get you. And here's the little baby boy. I'll add him to my frog pile. Now that I've properly demonstrated how to use this thing, I'm going to tell you the materials that you need and the price of everything. Let's start off with the elephant in the room. The Creality Ender 3 Pro costs about $250 on Amazon. And a side note is, it took me about like 2.5 hours to build, but that's because I suck at building stuff besides Legos. But yeah, it was a little complicated to build, but in the end, it was worth it. Now, let's talk about filament. I bought these 4 spools of filament for about $30 on Amazon. And if you want something bulky like this, which is 1 kilogram, while this is 250 grams, then this alone will cost about $20. Last but not least, and this is optional by the way, paint markers. These are definitely recommended if you only have 4 colors of filament like me and want to paint something different colors. The box of 12 markers costed about $8 on Amazon. Now let's move on to some questions. Why should I get a 3D printer? There's a couple reasons why. Reason 1, you can print basically anything you want, like this guy sitting on a toilet. Reason number 2, they can improve your life. Some people 3D print car parts for a living, and that's pretty much a life improvement. Why do my prints come out so weird? There are 2 answers to that question, one of them being extremely obvious. If you find something on Thingyverse that you want to print, make sure you go down to the description and look at print settings, and look at resolution and infill. These are important when you want to slice something in your slicer. If you take a look at your slicer and go up here, drop down, as you can see, here's the infill as seen on the website, and you can enter it in. The infill for this Homer Simpson is 38, as seen right here. So we're going to go into here and type in 38 for the infill. Hit enter. The second and most obvious reason is to level your bed. There's also a third reason that I have talked about, but I haven't gone deeper into. This red stuff. So you have your red stuff here, and you're going to want to go up here again and add support. Basically what that does is it adds some extra plastic under this little red part to make sure that it's as stable as possible. If you go into preview, after you hit supports, you can see that this blue stuff is the supports, and you can easily cut them off later after you're done printing something. How does that thing even work? It's simple. Basically, you got your filament up here, filament comes down through here, and then it gets threaded through here to the extruder. The extruder is the thing that pumps out the plastic when you're printing something. Basically, the tip of the extruder gets very hot and spews out the plastic, and it goes in a pattern in such a way that you have your object there. Golly, how much does a 3D printer cost in total with all the materials added? And the total was about $290 without the flash drives. Golly, that's expensive. Yeah. But as I've said before in this video, yes, it is worth it. If you feel like money is burning a hole in your wallet, then go ahead and buy that. It's cool, and you can make all this cool stuff with it. Anyway, that's pretty much the basics of owning a 3D printer. Although sometimes it can be high maintenance, it's pretty much a great purchase, and I really enjoy owning this machine. I really enjoy having this and having all that it's gotten me. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe or else you're a nerd, and I'll see you in the next video.